Alright, so we're going to look at how you play chess today. So if you don't know all the rules, you will after this video. And if you already know how, this is a basic video, you probably don't want to watch it. And if you already know how to play the game. So these are pawns. They're in the lead row. Well, okay, let's go over that first. We have files, and then everything that's on a file is a row or a diagonal. We'll talk about that later. These are pawns. They can move on the first move up 2 times. Actually, we'll just go ahead and analyze board. And we'll leave that off, and we'll just make moves. So they can either, as you can see, the green dots are where the piece can move. They move straight up and down. They can either go 1 or 2. It's up to you on the first move, whatever you want to do. We'll just move this guy here, and then we'll jump this guy out here. And all of your pawns can go all the way to the back. These pawns attack diagonally. So if there's a piece of any, whether it's a pawn or a knight or a bishop or a rook, a king even, a queen, you would take. You can also bypass it. You don't have to take. This isn't checkers. So we take there. And the same is true for black. And then you can you have a choice on which way you want to take if you have an option between the two. So if there's 2 options, you can take one way or you can take the other way. Doesn't matter, and you don't have to take it all. You can just move forward. Once we get past here, we can just go forward. Maybe when we want to get to the back rank for some reason. So that's how pawns move. They move forward 1 or 2 on the first move only. After that, it's only 1 move. You don't have any other, there's no other option for 2 moves. And then you don't have to take, you can just bypass it. So on the first move, pawns can move 1 or 2, unless there's not a space for the pawn to move. If it's blocked by another pawn, there's only 1 space to move. Alright, so that's how pawns move. The rooks move up and down, left and right. And they can go forward and backwards. Alright. They can capture all the way until they hit a piece. So we can go left and right. We can go that way. We can go this way. We can go this way. And until you hit a piece or you hit the edge of the board. Alright, knights, they're the funny ones. They move in an L shape, and you can see all the lit up squares here. So we can move there, or we can move here, and that's not exactly the same move. The bishops are on whatever color they start on is what they'll be on forever. So this is a dark squared bishop, this is a light squared bishop, and all of these pieces can move forward and backwards. Alright, and same thing for the rooks, and then same thing for the knights. Alright, so queen can move diagonally, forwards and backwards, and basically it moves any way the knight doesn't move, or does move rather. Well, it doesn't move in the direction the knight does. That's the only thing it can't do. And then we'll just make this straight there. Alright, and the king does the same thing the queen does, forwards, backwards, left, right, and diagonally. And it can only move 1 square. That's the only difference. Alright. Now I couldn't move here because the queen was right there, which would lead to check. Alright, so that's how all of those pieces move. We'll do a couple bishop moves if we can. Knight, rook, rook. Alright, so that's how all of those pieces move. And now we're going to talk about special moves. Since we know how all of these pieces move on both sides of the board, since it's the same, we're going to talk about special moves. This one, the first special move is castling. And this is in order to get the king out of this middle of the board. It can be attacked really easy there. So you have an option, if you have not moved your pieces back here, to move the king over twice in either direction, and the rook will go on the other side of the king. You can't have moved the pieces that you're castling with, and you can't castle through check. So if the queen is sitting here, anywhere here, you can't castle. If a bishop of the opposing color is like, if this was a black bishop, you can't castle. Alright, and if you've already castled, you also can't castle. If the square you land on it would put you in check, you can't castle. Alright, I think that covers castling. So we're going to castle queenside here, and we see that the rook goes on the other side of the king, and the king goes over twice. So just move the king over twice, and the rook goes on this other side of it automatically. And you always want to start with the king move first. You don't want to try to castle with the rook. It won't work. So you just move the king over twice. Alright, we're going to talk about chess notation real quick. Alright, this is, you see all the letters, the A through H, the 1 through 8. Alright, and this is always from white's side. Black doesn't get any A through H, 1 through 8. It only goes from white's point of view. Alright, so pawns don't get a letter, they only get a position. So D3, D6 are all pawn moves. E4, E5 is a pawn move. When we get over here, we can get bishop E2, which this is just a symbol for bishop. And we see that it moved to E2 from F. Alright, and you see the notation is written down here. Bishop E2, E5, E4, D6, D3, and in order it would be white's moves first, and then black follows. So we have got a knight coming out, knight F6, and it gets in the notation in. Bishop gets B, pawns don't get anything. Again, knight F3, bishop E7, queen D2, Q is just queen, and then bishop, or B6, and then queen E3, knight C6, bishop D2, G6, knight C3, queen D7, pawn to G3, A6, H3, rook to A7, which is RA7, and then we get a queen side castle, which is triple zeros separated by dashes. And then we've got another king side castle, which is because the king is on this side. The queen gets her color. Alright, when the board is first started, the queen always goes on her color, and the king goes on the side beside her. So this queen would start here, and that queen would start there. And so in chess notation, that's that. And we're going to talk about checking and taking pieces now. So when you want to capture something, unlike checkers, you don't jump over it. You jump, well, the knights can, but they're the only piece that can do so. So we look at it like this: knight X E5. So it killed off the pawn. This knight will go here, and then the pawn will take diagonally HX G4, and then HX G4 again, because it was the same square. Alright, so one more important note is Okay. Knight x c3. Now, here is something you might want to note. This knight and this knight can both go to this square. And that's the same thing as true of rooks. And sometimes, well, that's only, like, the bishops can't do it because the bishops always stay on their own color. So when we take a knight and move it to, let's say, e4, we need to denote which square it moved from. Alright, so knight c x e4. So the knight was on the c range, because if both knights can go there, who's to say that it wasn't the other knight? And in this case, it will be. Go forward once, and knight f to x e4. Alright, so that's how you show captures. Alright, it's just an X. To win the game, you need to capture or threaten the king in a way that he can't solve it. Alright, so we're going to take here, and we're going to move the way, and then we're going to put our king in checkmate. Alright, so that is mate, and what it does is it shows a hashtag, or if you want to talk like number or a pound sign. Alright, so the king can't move, there's nothing that can take the queen, and the rook's defending, and so is the knight. So this game is over. The king can't take the queen, and there's nothing that can capture, and it can't move away, because the king can move up to all of these squares. Our queen can move to all these squares, so can the king, but since it won't be out of danger, the game is over. And I think that's about what we need to cover here for chess notation. There is a thing called a stalemate at the tie, and we'll talk about that later. Alright, so we have castling again. So I'm going to make an analysis board, and we have set up our position, and we want to castle early. So white will castle, and then black will castle queenside, and that gets us out of the middle, because this f pawn right here is very weak, because there's no way to defend it, no good way to defend it. And often, all too often, it will lead to mate if you don't castle early in the game. Alright, so now we're going to talk about another special rule. Much like in checkers, you can promote pieces. You get kings in checkers, you get anything except for a pawn or a king in chess. You can have as many queens as you have pawns, and original queen as well. And so in this game, we can move as white. We can take here and capture the knight, or we can just move forward, and then the game lets us know that we can have any of these pieces. So queens are worth more than everything else on this board. Pawns are worth 1, queens are worth 9, knights are worth 3, and rooks are worth 5, king is infinite, and bishop is 3, 3.5. It's up to you. Whatever you, and once we promote to the queen, we can easily get the king in checkmate, especially if we do it twice. So now we can promote here with a queen, and now we can promote here with a queen. And the king can move this time out of check. And so he does. And then we can either take, or we can take it on this side. And so that's how promotion works. All of these pawns get to the back rank, and much like in checkers, you can promote to whatever piece you need. Occasionally you'll promote to a knight, because it leads to an automatic checkmate. And we can move this guy, or we can just move this guy, and then we can promote this pawn as well, but we're not going to do that right now, because we have to talk about another move. And this is the last special move in chess, and this is called impassing or en passant, if you want to use other languages. So we're on the 5th rank, and black decides that he wants to invoke his 2 move rule. He's moving 2 squares. Well, everybody realized a long time ago that this is a pretty powerful move, especially when you've castled your king. And so we've allowed a special move that as soon as this happens, not 5 moves later, not 3 moves later, not 2 moves later, we can go behind the piece that just moved, and we can take it. So we're taking it in passing. And the same thing is true here. And then you can go behind that one. But if we don't make that move immediately, we can't do it again. If we go and do something else, and the only time that we really can't do it is if it endangers our king, or that's about it. So when black decides to move out this way, we have a choice of which way we want to take en passant, or en passing. Maybe if I take this direction, black takes my rook. It's not really a good trade. So maybe I want to take with this direction. That way I don't open up this square for the rook to take. This can also be very powerful when you're going to promote soon. So this happens on the 5th rank with white, and it happens with the 4th rank on black. So whenever white wants to pass black, and we'll actually go backwards, and we'll go ahead and analysis board so you can see it in a game. And white wants to pass black, we go behind the piece. You don't have to do this, but if we go ahead and take all of these, we're on the 4th rank, we jump to the rank directly behind the white pawn. And actually I won't do it this time, just to show you. And then we can't do it now, because we already did something else. And so we've lost our right to do so. And in this case it wouldn't be a very good idea, because it would open up the rook file. And then the rook could take the other rook. Alright, so that's en passant, and that's the last move that is less special. It's the last special move in chess. We're going to talk about our last thing, which is a stalemate. It's white to move, and we've lost all our pieces except for a pawn. And if white moves anywhere that is not check, then the game is over, because it's a tie. It's a stalemate. So he moved here, and now I don't have any moves left. There is nothing I can do now. Alright? This is a stalemate. This is game over. There's nothing I can take, and black can't move. So that's how you play it. Alright. So we have a stalemate here. And if we go back once, and the king moves away, now black has a place that it can move. Because if the king is here, the black king cannot move right next to the white king. And the same is true in the opposite order. The white king can't move right next to the black king right here, no matter how much it wants to, because on the next move the king would be in danger and it can be taken. The king can't capture a king. They need to be 1 square away. alright, at all times, in every direction. So what we need to do in this game, we need to move back, alright, and then let's say black moves here. I don't know why there's no move. Oh yeah, he can't move there. He can move here. And white moves here. And black moves here. White moves farther down the board. Black moves here. Now the rook can come and check the king. And the king moves here. And because it has to move out of danger. When this move happens, the king is blushing because it can be in check. Like it can be taken on the next move. You must move the king, or you must put something in front of it, either here or wherever you want to, as long as it blocks the rook. Or you can take the rook. Since we can't do any of that, we must move. So let's say the king moves here, and then the rook moves to take the pawn. And then let's say the black king hits here, and the white rook moves there. Let's say, because it can't move into check, we can't go here to take either one of the two pieces. So we'll have to move away. We only have a king left. And then we move the pawn forward, and the king can move here, but it doesn't do much good. Because if it moves here, then that happens, and then the king takes the pawn, which helps. But now a rook and a king can mate the black king. I guess we'll go through that real quick. No, actually, I'm gonna wait for another video for that one. We'll do all of the mates, all the basic mates. But essentially, I'll show it once, I guess. King moves there. King moves there. Rook moves here, down the row. Goes there. And we'll move here. We're wasting a move to get to where we want it to be. King goes there. And now the king can't go any farther on this row because the rook stops that from happening, and the king can't come next to the other king. So we'll just move back or down. We'll move down, and now the rook closes off this other square. Now, only thing the king can do is move on this line here. And we'll move forward, and then the rook will move away. And the king will move here, and then the white king has to come and help. And then king goes there, king goes here, king goes there, white king goes back to the other side again, king goes here. Let's say king goes here. It doesn't matter. This would equate to mate. And you see that it's blushing, but there's nowhere for the king to go. It can't go any of these two squares, and this entire row is endangered by the rook. So that's one way you can do the rook, king, and king in endgame. And there's other ways to do it. This king could be what goes here. King could be on this square, and then the other king could be here, and then we'll waste a move on both sides, and then the king moves back, and then this is still mate. Oh well, it would be if I moved it in the right set on the right square. This is still mate because the king can't go anywhere on this row, and it can't challenge the other king. But you must put him on the edge of the board to get a mate with a rook and a king. Both pieces need to help. Alright, so that's a brief introduction to checkmate. We'll cover more types of checkmates later on, and they all have different names. And we've covered how to play by moving the pieces and the special rules and chess notation. And that's pretty much all you have to do. Check the king and then put the king and checkmate. Usually through pawn promotion or just really bad play from your opponent. So that's this video.